Welcome to the 508 Power Hour, a fantasy football podcast like no other. And here are your hosts, Fran Baldino and Dave Preventure.
Hello? Oh, he's not going to make it? Okay, alright, sounds good. Sorry about that, guys. I just got off the phone with Dave's agent. He's not going to make it today, so we brought in Mr. Austin Fitman. So, it is April 27th. This is episode 19?
20. Episode 20.
Episode 20. Okay. I mean, we haven't been here since February, so it's been a while. It's been a long while. And speaking of Super Bowl, Tampa Bay Buccaneers
did it again with Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, world champion 7 times.
He's the best ever. Him and Bill Belichick are the best ever.
Yeah, the GOAT.
Together, the GOAT of everything. We're going to hang a banner in Gillette in August.
Okay. I mean, you might as well. I mean, New England wins when Brady wins, and it's all the same, really.
Patriots South down there.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, we haven't been here in pretty much all offseason, the entire offseason. So let's talk about some things. I mean, it was pretty interesting, pretty exciting offseason for football this year.
Yeah, I mean, there were some teams that kind of stood pat when I thought they should have moved, and then obviously teams like the Patriots that did everything when they should have done everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the two big storylines we have to start with are the two teams that were in the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Bucs bringing everyone back somehow, which has never been done before.
But all 24 starters are back on the team.
Yeah. which is kind of interesting. You wonder if something like that works because the NFL is so much about like adapting. So like every other team's going to be trying to catch up to what the Bucs just did.
The Bucs just did that. Everyone's back, but everyone's a year older, and now.
Yeah.
I mean, Brady's what, 49? Like,
not 49.
This guy, can he do it? Is there time?
I don't know. I just think it's interesting, like defensively, like I don't know. Maybe it's like other Super Bowl teams. It's more that they lose players, and that's why everyone catches up to them.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it, or maybe it's just that everyone adapts. So I guess we're gonna find out. But
honestly, that's gonna be pretty fun. And I mean, the other team in the Super Bowl is Chiefs. The Chiefs, I mean, we went in there and their offensive line was completely decimated.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought it was going to play a huge impact. A lot of people didn't. I mean, I was one. I was like, they have Mahomes. It's really not going to make a difference. And let me tell you, it made a difference. I mean, if you watched that Super Bowl, the guy looked like it was Joe Burrow when he was running for his life the entire game.
Yeah.
So Kansas City went out and they spent money, they made trades, they rebuilt that entire offensive line.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it was about, like, they didn't necessarily spend, like, more money than everyone else, like, to go get these guys. I think they found, like, pretty good deals. They moved on from some guys that would have cost more money. So, all in all, a pretty good offseason for them. I still think they have work to do. I think they could do with drafting another lineman.
Yep.
And I think the defense needs work, too.
Absolutely. I mean, the biggest one is Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney's, I mean, he's been All-Pro in New England, 3 years in a row?
Yeah.
And now he's jumping from New England to Kansas City. So he goes from protecting Brady to having a year where he has to kind of just ponder through it on the franchise tag.
Yeah.
Not really motivated, especially when all that guy's done in his career is win. He's never been on a losing team until last year. And now he's going to play for the Chiefs and Pat Mahomes. So, I mean, you play 1 year with Cam Newton, you go Tom Brady, Cam Newton, Pat Mahomes. I mean, Thuney's got it pretty good. I mean,
yeah, he's pretty well set there. So, I mean, obviously those two teams were through the, Bucs bringing back their guys was a pretty big punch, and then Chiefs doing theirs as well. Then you had smaller teams like Giants and the Cardinals that made moves to kind of fill out their rosters and maybe make them contenders. Like the Cardinals, you lose Pat Pete, but you bring in J.J. Watt, who's now going to play opposite.
And Rodney Hudson, so you get another big body to protect Kyler.
Yeah, their defense is getting scary.
Yeah.
Like I think they probably need another corner to kind of fill in from where they left off. But obviously we know that offense can put up points at will, so it's going to be all about the defense and how well they can fill out the rest of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You have Chandler Jones on one side and J.J. Watt on another. I mean, it's 2021 now. It's going to be 2022 by the end of the season. So it's a little late for those guys, but I mean, it's still J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones.
Yeah, those are two scary dudes that I still don't think you want to line up across if you're on the offensive line.
Who was the other team you said?
Giants.
I mean, I thought the Giants had a pretty solid receiving group.
Yeah.
With Slayton and the other kid that came in this year, Shepard.
Yeah.
Shepard and Slayton. And I mean, they still have Evan Ingram, and then they go out and just huge splash with Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, not something you expected. I was still wondering if they were going to be on the fringe with Daniel Jones, but it seems like they're all in on him now.
Yeah. I mean, they signed Leonard Williams, so Leonard Williams jumps from the Jets to the Giants locker room, so that's a huge signing. Was he there last year?
He was there last year.
Yeah, he was there last year.
Him, though,
so you bring him back on big money. That's a great play there. And then Kenny Golladay, and you finally get a cornerback in Adoree Jackson.
Right.
I mean, Adoree played, he never really lived up to the hype in Tennessee, but it's a new beginning. So you get a guy like Adoree Jackson, who was a top first-round pick, and we'll see how it plays out in New York. I mean, I like it. Especially the Giants. I mean, I didn't expect them to go out and get Golladay.
Well, their offense could be real good. And you got to remember they didn't have Saquon for most of last year, too. So all of a sudden now you throw Saquon into that mix, and if Daniel Jones can just play well, then you're going to have a lot of superstar players that are going to be able to get it done over the course of the year. So that'll be an interesting team to watch.
Who else had a big offseason?
The biggest one. Your New England Patriots.
Yeah, the New England Jets. I mean, they played like the Jets last year. They spent like the Jets this year. Belichick came from the Jets, and they did what bad teams do. And that's what it is.
I think that's unfair analysis because I think even you can agree they filled a lot of needs.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they filled a lot of needs, but they overpaid for some players.
I think they overpaid for some players, but I also think they got like decent deals on others.
But the thing is they were bad. I mean, the team last year, that roster was bad.
I said it. I came on here last year and I said everyone needs to realize the Patriots just suck.
And what bad rosters do, I mean, you look at the Jaguars of late, you look at the Jets of late, you look at the Giants of late. Bad teams spend money. And the Patriots had to do it. They've never done it, and they finally did. So they had a huge offseason, which is very unlike them in free agency.
Yeah.
But it's what they had to do.
But I also don't think they just bought players just to say they bought players. Like, they were most successful.
Other than at the tight end position. I'm going to say they...
Well, I was going to say, they were most successful when they had two really good tight ends, and that's when their system was at its best with Brady. So, I'm not mad that they went out and spent money on two top-end tight ends. A little skeptical of spending the money they did on Nelson Aguilar, but I understand it because they didn't have anyone like that last year.
They had no receivers the last couple of years.
And again, you lose Julian Edelman, so now you have even more gaps to fill. I don't think Kendrick Bourne's going to be the one doing that, but...
I like Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne, he was dynamic in San Francisco. I mean, the guy's never put up big numbers, but whenever you saw him whenever he was on TV... He was making that big catch or the big touchdown play. Like, he just kind of, like, shines in the right situation.
But they just have so many decisions to make, like, at wide receiver. Like, if you're running two tight ends, you can't run three receivers, so you can only run two. So it's like, are you going to run Aguilar and Bourne? Are you done with N'Keal Harry? Are you going to run Aguilar and Harry, who are kind of similar in how they play? So it's like, you're kind of handcuffed there if you're going to be running two tight end sets, but... I guess there's no such thing as a bad thing when it comes to having too much talent at the skill positions.
I think the biggest question in New England is their number one position of need last year was quarterback,
and it still is.
So they went into last season with Cam Newton. Cam Newton was signed in July, so it was a late offseason signing. But you went into the season with Cam Newton, Jarrett Stidham, and Brian Hoyer in your quarterback room.
Yeah. And now
what changed in this year's quarterback room?
You just lost Hoyer.
And it's now April 27th, and you still have Cam Newton, and you still have Jarrett Stidham.
I think there's still a lot of... Obviously, we'll get into the draft, and we made our own mock drafts here, but I still think there's... the draft is a great avenue. They haven't picked this high in a very long time, so they have an opportunity there. But I still think there's some trades to be made that are going to be made once the draft is over.
Yeah.
And I think there's still a lot of chances for them to... at least get something better than Cam Newton. It's
interesting. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's completely different from realistically anything that me and you have lived through in living in New England. So to like you're just thinking about it, and you talk about like the draft this year and how the Patriots haven't been in this position forever.
Yeah,
this is going to be the most watched draft in New England maybe ever.
Well,
the amount of people who are tuned into the offseason and this season's like unpredictability, realistically, it's crazy.
Well, and we were talking about before, like Bill Belichick's, I don't want to say he's been inept at drafting, but early draft picks are clearly not his thing. So, like, obviously he's been picking in like the high 20s and the 30s the last 20 years, So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle picking mid-first round, maybe trading up high first round.
Maybe trading down. Who knows? I mean, classic
I wouldn't
Belichick,
rule it
trade
out.
down.
I wouldn't
exactly.
rule it out.
So, I mean, there were a lot of other teams. I mean, you had the Colts and Eagles. They made a lot of trades, especially a big trade.
The big one.
Yeah. I mean, Carson Wentz now goes from leading the league in sacks and interceptions to playing quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts.
I think that's a good.
So,
I said this last year too. Is I don't think the Eagles had a Carson Wentz problem. I think their whole team was broken, and I think that broke Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with Philly was what? They didn't have an offensive line. Now he goes and plays behind one of the best offensive lines in football.
And then
so
with a dominant running game. I mean, you get Marlon.
True.
You have Jonathan Taylor and you get Marlon Mack back.
Yeah.
Plus you have the Nyheim Hines who, I mean, Philadelphia did it with pretty much any running back they could. You saw shines of Boston Scott playing that Nyheim
Miles
Hines
Sanders,
role.
but he was just too
But that Nyheim Hines role, the third down back, and where
Yeah.
Hines shines in that, you have your guy. You have the Jonathan Taylor who's a workhorse. You have Marlon Mack who can change the pace, workhorse back, and then you have a guy like Nyheim Hines who's, I mean, he's up there with the best pass catching running backs in the league.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
that's huge. I mean, I'm excited for Jacksonville. I mean, Jacksonville with Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer finally gets an NFL job. So he goes out. He signs Shaquille Griffin and Marvin Jones. So, I mean, those are two big signings for Jacksonville with the number 1 pick. So that whole division is going to be pretty fun. I mean, Houston, we're not going to really talk about what's going on in Houston right now. But, I mean, you lost J.J. Watt. You lost a pretty good amount of guys. And then they bring in Bradley Roby, Randall Cobb, Philip Lindsay. I'm pretty sure did they sign Mark Ingram?
Yeah, they did. They just signed
they signed the fast or the top 4 running backs after age 34.
Yeah.
But I mean, Philip Lindsay's a guy who he's always played with a chip on his shoulder, so that's a good signing there. That whole division is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, the whole division pretty much half the teams had a shakeup as to what they're going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously with the Colts and the Jags, so. All those games, except for probably the Texans, will be competitive. So that'll probably be sneaky. Some of the best games. I know they used to bury
the Titans Jaguars games used to be terrible.
Yeah,
they're going to be pretty fun this year.
Must watch.
So I'm excited for that. That division's going to be fun to watch. And who else? Anyone else have a crazy offseason? I mean, you got teams like the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals need to go out and do something. They didn't do anything this offseason.
Packers probably should have went out and did something. They did nothing.
Baltimore, I mean, they need receivers.
Sammy Watkins isn't bad, but
so they get Sammy Watkins and
you should. If they're the Ravens should have been handing a blank check to Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really the biggest thing we're missing. So
I mean, the Jets and Panthers made a big trade. Mr. Sammy D is finally out of New York.
I like that for both teams. Obviously, with the Jets picking at number 2, they kind of hold their future.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say they messed up Sam Darnold. I just think they weren't ready to take on a rookie quarterback and build around him.
Sam Darnold may be one of the most interesting. He might be one of the most interesting quarterbacks we've ever grown up watching and been in the league. Because you have, how many guys do you see come into the league, have a brutal 3 seasons that Darnold had, and then never get a starting job again?
Yeah.
So now you get somebody where Sam Darnold, and the thing with Darnold is every single year, people are like, this guy's super talented. He's so good. It's just not the right spot.
Yeah.
That was every year rather than somebody like Jameis Winston where it's like, all right, he kind of stinks. He's not capable of doing this. So now Sam Darnold gets that opportunity to go play somewhere else. And he gets that fresh start so many young players and young quarterbacks technically need in their career.
I think the thing with him is, compared to Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston's throwing, he had flashes of good, but he's also throwing 30 picks in a season.
Mm-hmm.
It's Sam Darnold was never that bad.
Yeah.
And you saw more flashes of good than bad, even when the Jets were absolutely horrible. So I think that's why teams had faith in him. I'm surprised the Panthers were the ones to make the move, though.
I think it's going to... So, a lot of people don't know about Joe Brady. I believe he's the offensive coordinator at Carolina.
Yeah.
I want to say, when he was at LSU, he was the air pass game coordinator, whatever that means.
Yeah.
He dealt with the passing game. And you look at LSU's passing game in the last 2 years, they had Joe Burrow last year, best college season out of a quarterback, or 2 years ago, best college season out of a quarterback, arguably ever. You have Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Both of them are top first-round picks.
Right.
Jefferson's last year first round. Chase was first round last year, and Terrace Marshall could be first round this year.
Right.
They also had, like, you get something out of Thad Moss, who, I mean, the guy, he just got signed by Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Cincinnati just picked him up, but Thad Moss in college was arguably the best pass-catching tight end. So where you get a guy with Sam Darnold now, you get a great offensive, like, quarterback mind with Sam Darnold, and you lose Curtis Samuel, so that might hurt, but Darnold goes back to Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Honestly, people forget they played together, and that's really where Darnold had his flashes with Anderson, and you have DJ Moore.
Right.
So he goes into and Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be a good team.
You go into an offense that has a ton of weapons and a genius running the passing game. It's going to be fun. I mean, it's crazy because I just think Darnold has, like, you can throw a list out of there and how many quarterbacks fizzle out within their first 3 years going into that second contract.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And now Darnold gets what he needed. So I think that's really cool. I mean, growing up, it was nobody night. It's huge. So
yeah.
I mean, there were a ton of retirements this year. I mean, you get Phillip Rivers is gone. Drew Brees is gone.
R.I.P.
The Pouncey brothers both retired.
Yeah.
Jason Witten and Greg Olsen, they call it quits, so they're both heading up. Is Witten going back into the booth?
I don't think he can. First of all, he wasn't very good at it.
No, he was very good. Alex Smith retired. So
that's a sad one.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get another chance. There was a report that came out that he got a few phone calls. And then just, there were too many, he said there were too many asterisks as far as like injury clauses in his contracts that he was like, this isn't worth it, which is kind of weird. I mean, he proved to be pretty healthy. Like, what are the odds of that happening again, I guess? I mean, I'm not a doctor, but...
Yeah, I mean, Pat Chung and Edelman both retire, so...
Yeah.
There might... I mean, I'm looking at the list now. I mean, we probably watched 3-4 Hall of Fame players retire this season. So, I mean, Brees, easily Hall of Fame. Rivers, you can make an argument.
He probably will be.
Edelman, you can make the argument.
Yeah.
The Pouncey brother from Pittsburgh, I mean, he was a 3-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler. Yeah. So I mean, he's up there. Yeah. Witten's probably a Hall of Famer.
Witten and Olsen are both probably in the conversation.
Greg Olsen's definitely in the conversation for it. I mean, it's going to be pretty sick. I mean, what we're living in is greatness, and, I mean, we just saw a bunch of greats retire this season, so that's pretty cool. Yep. But I think we're going to take a break, guys. We're going to come back with mock drafts. Me and Austin both made a mock draft. We're going to talk trades, talk busts, talk like who we think is missing in the first round of our mock drafts. I mean, there's a lot of players who kind of slipped through that first round, and they're going to be great. So we'll talk about all that. We'll be back though.
Today's episode is sponsored by FatAssGlass.com, a top-ranked online smoke shop for all your smoking and vaporizing needs. Free 2 to 3 day shipping on orders $25 and up with interest-free payment plans available. Use code POWERHOUR for 10% off all purchases.
Gosh. Oops, wrong thing. I was trying to find the draft thing, but couldn't figure it out. So, like I said, me and Austin both made mock drafts. Jacksonville, you're on the clock.
I think picks 1 and 2, I don't know if you disagree, but I think 1 is obviously going to be Trevor Lawrence. I don't think there's anything to even talk about there. They're getting a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years. Yeah,
I mean, we both agree on Trevor Lawrence. I mean, we both agree on pick 2 with the New York Jets. So, I mean, we both have Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU.
Yeah.
I had this earlier, but like I really wouldn't be surprised if the Jets are the Jets. So
it's too late.
I don't think it would be surprising to see the Jets throw the curveball in the NFL draft and go with a different quarterback.
I don't think there's any chance in the world that they do that. My thing, and I said this before, was if Pat Mahomes didn't happen, is Zach Wilson ever going number 2? Mm-hmm. Like, I think Zach Wilson would be behind like 3 of these other quarterbacks if it wasn't for Pat Mahomes. It's the same thing where it's like they're just talking about like freakish athleticism and like he can just throw the ball a million miles. And Todd McShay said that when he was like studying tape on Pat Mahomes pre-draft, he was pretty much like he did everything wrong. Like from when the ball snapped until the receiver caught it, Pat Mahomes did everything wrong. That's why he thought it wasn't going to work.
Yep.
I don't know if Zach Wilson's the exact same, but I think they're similar, and that's why I think he's going so high. So I don't know if I buy it, but I guess that is what it is. Apparently,
Yeah,
what everyone's saying. So
it's going to be interesting because this pick right here, both of these picks. I mean, Jacksonville is Urban Meyer's first pick ever.
yeah,
You can't screw that up,
yeah,
especially at pick 1. You cannot screw that up. Your career is on that, and the same thing with Rob Saleh in New York. Your career rides with whichever quarterback you pick.
yeah.
So if you're going Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson's a bust, you're going to look like Matt Nagy.
yeah,
And the word on Matt Nagy right now is
not
very good.
Not good.
So pick 3, that's the 49ers. I mean, the 49ers gave up a ton for this pick. They're going quarterback. It's funny because if you listen to anything Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch say, they don't have Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he's there, but he's not a starting quarterback. He didn't bring them to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I don't know what the deal is with them and Garoppolo. I mean, they made the trade and just paid the guy out of the ass. And 3 years later, because the guy had some freak injuries, some football injuries, I mean, they're ruling him out. So
it's so weird. The way they talk about him is just so freakish. I was saying to you, they talk when they talk, they think they're talking highly of him, but it comes off so wrong and so bad.
Yeah.
Like saying how they're drafting a starting quarterback on Thursday night. Like, oh, anyone could be on the roster on Sunday. Who knows who's going to be like alive come Sunday? It's just like such a like not endorsing him at all, but then you're still saying out loud like, oh, he's going to be our quarterback.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre.
So who do you have them going with pick 3?
Originally I thought Justin Fields. Now all these reports come out that they're not even really considering him at this point. So I think they're going Mac Jones. I don't think they're, unless they really are high on Jimmy G and they just don't know how to speak.
Yeah.
And they're okay with Lance like backing up Jimmy G for a year or two. Maybe that's how they want to do it. I think they want a quarterback that's going to come in and start like day one.
See, I think there are reports right now saying that they're shopping Garoppolo. I'm not buying them. I mean, you've had the entire offseason, and like I said, Garoppolo brought them to the Super Bowl. I mean, there has to be some crazy thing with Jimmy G and Shanahan where, like, they just don't get along.
I just don't know if the 49ers know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't know if they know what to... Like, I don't think they know what to do with this.
It's almost like they're punishing Garoppolo for being hurt.
Yeah.
But it's almost like he is a good quarterback.
I understand
when he plays. Like,
you got to draft for your team, so like you can't be like, oh, we shouldn't take a quarterback just because we like Jimmy.
Yeah.
So like I do understand like why they might want to take a quarterback here, but like they're not being honest about something. They're either going to draft a quarterback and start him, or they're going to draft a quarterback and Jimmy G is 100% their guy. But either way, it doesn't make sense.
See, I think they have high doubts about Garoppolo, but the amount of money they're paying him and to not have moved him at this point yet, I think is very weird.
Yeah, it's odd.
You've seen 3 quarterbacks traded this offseason already.
Yeah. And
Garoppolo is definitely in the same tier as all 3 of them. So, I mean, I think they're going to stick with Garoppolo until his contract rides out, which is this year. I mean, they have 1 year on the contract, and he's gone. So you take a kid like Trey Lance, who has... if you listen to anybody talk about like these prospects, Trey Lance has all the talent you need to be a quarterback in the NFL. He's got the size, he's got the arm strength, he's got the mobility. You get him there, and again, Shanahan's system's pretty tough to learn. It's not an easy one.
Yeah.
So you get him there, and he pretty much red shirts under Jimmy Garoppolo. And I mean, Garoppolo played. I mean, maybe you're talking this much shit about Garoppolo or throw a chip on his shoulder. And
I just don't buy that they believe in Garoppolo. Like I'm saying they're going to take Mac Jones because I think they want a starting quarterback. You're saying you think they're going to take Trey Lance because you think they're going to ride out Jimmy.
I think
so
you.
It's just kind of like two opposite ends.
I honestly, it might be a thing where they're trying to motivate him and throw that chip on his shoulder and be like, you know what, you've been pissing us off, so we're going to draft a guy who's taking your spot, and you're on your earn a contract, and now Jimmy Garoppolo has to go ball. Like people are like, oh, why is Jimmy going to want to play there? Why is he going to want to win there? He's not playing for the 49ers. He's playing for Jimmy Garoppolo in the next contract. So
yeah, I mean, again, that's the first.
It's crazy reverse psychology. I'm just spitballing it here. But
I wouldn't want to mess with a franchise quarterback like that. But again, the 49ers clearly have no clue how to manage this situation.
So I got Lance. You have Mac Jones. So pick 4, Atlanta. You're on the clock.
I think the word has been Kyle Pitts for some time now. You just take one of the best prospects ever at that position. I don't see any reason, unless they're going to trade down, unless someone really wants whatever quarterback is going to be there at 4.
Yep.
Then maybe someone trades up and ships the house for that pick. But I don't think anyone's going to be willing to do that for Fields or Lance or Jones. I just don't see that happening. So I think Falcons probably just stick and take the best player.
Yeah, I mean, at first I looked at it and I'm thinking their defense sucks. You got to help that defense. So I was thinking of Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley or, any of the cornerbacks really. But I mean, like you said, Pitts is just that good.
Yeah.
It's to sit there, especially with Atlanta, and they're shopping around Julio Jones apparently. Again,
yeah,
that's been a thing for the last 6 years. So who the hell knows about that? But when Kyle Pitts is sitting there and you're in front of you, you got to take it. I mean, it's pretty stupid if you don't take Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, you
if they
instantly
keep
makes your offense, even if you lose Julio Jones, like you bring him in, first of all, you save a bunch of money, which is their biggest thing is they have no money.
Yep.
And your offense is still like equally dynamic.
Yeah.
Because now Calvin Ridley's your one, you can plug him in. You have more going on.
Russell Gage gets more times. Like it's gonna be that team's.
You can figure it out.
So if they sit at pick 4, Kyle Pitts is off the board. Boom.
Yeah.
Pick 5, Cincinnati. This one's interesting. This is where the draft starts to me. I've been saying that a couple days in a row now. The draft starts at pick 5.
Yeah.
So,
the 49ers are deciding between 2 guys. The Bengals can really go any way they want. So they don't need a quarterback. It's really just going to be what they prefer. I have them taking Chase out of LSU.
Yep, I do as well.
I said this before, like, yes, they need to protect Joe Burrow, but there isn't that, like, generational offensive tackle that's in this draft. So I think you can get tackles and guards later in the draft that'll still produce for you and can still be starters in the team while also getting by far the best receiver in the draft and further helping Burrow in that regard.
Yeah, I'm going Jamar Chase as well. I was talking about it earlier when they were both there at LSU with the team that won the championship undefeated. They all broke records, and Chase arguably was the number 1. He was the 1A, Jefferson's the 1B. So Joe Burrow's the same quarterback he was back then with a new knee. Yeah. You get a guy there like Chase who is that polished.
Yeah. Burrow's
going to be snap and throw. It's not going to be. There's going to be plays where, he's running for his life because that offensive line's there. But if you get a guy like Chase and you have a guy like Boyd and you have Higgins, so Higgins is like 6'4", and then Chase and Boyd are 6'1", 6'2", and they're both, all 3 of them are equally dynamic across the board. They can play in and out.
Yeah.
So you get a guy like Chase, and it's him and Burrow obviously have that great connection, and that relationship is just there. So.
Yeah, and the other side of this too, you got to think about the owners in this situation. The Bengals owner loves making splashes on ridiculous picks. They did it with John Ross. Obviously, they drafted Joe Burrow. Like, they just love drafting skill positions early. I cannot see a world where they just take an offensive tackle at this spot. I just think there's no way it happens.
The one thing that's sketchy is behind Sewell and Slater, the drop-off for offensive tackle is
big.
Extremely large.
Yeah.
So, that's the one thing that is going to hurt you. If you don't take Sewell, you're not getting Sewell or Slater. And then, you're kind of just throwing paper airplanes and spitballing, trying to...
Yeah.
Like throwing the dart at the dartboard, trying to land that tackle who will fit your team. So, I'm sold on Chase going there.
I'm with you.
Number 6, I got Miami taking Sewell.
I have them taking him too. They haven't been able to fill the void since Laramie Tunsil. I think they have a pretty good setup. Obviously, Tua is the biggest question mark.
Yep.
When you're losing your job to Ryan Fitzpatrick, that's a tough look. So I think that's their biggest question mark. I think the only thing that can help them is protecting him as much as they can. Obviously, let's not forget about his injury history. They can find talent and already have talent around him that can they can get the ball to. So I like them taking the offensive tackle there. Again, he's not the generational guy, but that's a big need for them.
Yeah, the offensive line's definitely the biggest weakness in Miami.
Yeah.
They keep saying they want to get a playmaker, and I don't really understand it. You have Preston Williams and who's the other receiver there?
Devontae Parker.
Yeah. So you have Williams and Parker. They're both very good when healthy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They weren't healthy last year. They also have Mike Gesicki at tight end. So you have 3 weapons right there. I mean, you're not taking a running back here. So I think the whole we want like the whole offensive weapon. It's just they're trying to make the splash, but you can't overcomplicate. You can't overcomplicate this pick.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. I think you just make the pick that, again, that's a long-term pick. Like Sewell's going to be a really good player for a long time. You hope that he plays alongside Tua for as long as they're both in uniform and playing. So
yep.
I think that's where they go there.
Number 7, Detroit Lions. I mean, you have them taking a receiver?
I do. I don't even know where this team needs to start because.
So we both have them taking a receiver, but
I have them taking Waddle because I think Waddle is. If Waddle doesn't get hurt this year, we're not talking about Devontae Smith going in the top 10. It just isn't happening.
Absolutely not.
So, like, as good as Devontae Smith looked last year, I think the consensus is that Waddle is probably the most polished receiver outside of Chase. So, there's a lot of question marks with Devontae Smith. Don't get me wrong, he's still a great football player. But I think if you are the team that has to pick between those 2 players, you should probably be taking Waddle, and I think that's what the Lions will do.
I mean, I haven't taken Smith. I mean, I think the way if you watch like the way Goff plays, Goff needs the fast receiver. So I'm thinking they're gonna kind of like work with Goff and try and like play towards his strength.
Yeah. And
go with the speed. So I haven't taken Devontae Smith.
I don't know. The Lions have always been, for some reason, the one position they seem to always get right is receiver. I mean, when you draft Calvin Johnson and Kenny Golladay, like most teams would dream of drafting those 2 guys within 20 years of each other.
Exactly.
So it's like, you couldn't manage to hang on to them, but I mean, I don't think they're the type of team that's going to go for like the small guy that's quick. I know Goff plays that way, but I don't think that's just how the Lions want to play it. So I think they would go with Waddle, who's, again, more polished, can do a little bit more than Smith can, I feel.
I agree with that, but that's the fun of the draft. No one really knows.
Yep.
Carolina, pick 8.
With all that being said, Carolina's going to take Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing we said with the Panthers earlier. They have 2 really good receivers. And it's this pick again is the question of 2 different things. Do they really believe in Sam Darnold and are they going to want to try and ride him out?
Yep.
Or are they willing to give Darnold his test run year, draft a quarterback behind him, and then they can just pick at the end of a year? If I were the Panthers, I would be taking, like, I think Trey Lance would be available here, so I would take Trey Lance, have him be my backup, and just have a safety net for years to come. Like, that buys you, I hate to say it, but that's job security for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do, but I think they're going to go with the receiver. Again, I just think they're the type of team that feels like they play in that NFC division where everyone scores 1 million points, and they're just like, oh, that's how we're just going to keep up with everyone. Score a bunch, and then just try and figure it out on the back end.
So I have Carolina taking Rashawn Slater here. Matt Rule seems like a Grizzly dude. I mean, if you ever look at him, he's got a grizzly beard. He's a husky guy. I feel like he's got a little hard on for the big guys. So, I mean, like we were talking about with their weapons, they have good receivers. They really don't have a tight end. That's a weak position there. So, I mean, you throw Pat Freiermuth at them, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I think it's way too early for him.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to protect Christian McCaffrey. And you just bring in Sam Darnold. And if you're that sold on Sam Darnold, protect him. So I think they're going to go with an offensive tackle and Slater.
I don't hate that.
Number 9, Denver Broncos.
Denver, again, another dumpster fire of an organization. How many quarterbacks have they taken that haven't panned out?
A ton.
It's like, do you go back and you do try and get another one? How long have they had Drew Lock? 2 years now?
2 years.
2 years?
Yep.
So it's like, are you ready to give up on him, or are you willing to...
How long in between him and Paxton Lynch were drafted? I mean...
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
And Paxton Lynch has...
He started since. 2 games, maybe?
Yeah, so I think they do go back to the line. I think they're going with Trey Lance.
Okay.
I think they're comfortable with Drew Lock, but I think he's on a short leash. And I think they're... Especially because they drafted, obviously, Ruggs last year.
No, Judy,
yeah, Jerry Judy,
and Cortland Sutton.
They have Cortland Sutton. I think they feel like their offense is like a quarterback away from being really good, and I do not think they want to wait around to see if Drew Lock is the guy.
I would say the biggest part with Denver is John Elway's not making the pick, Elway stepped away from GM and he's president of football operations. And he's got a name. He's still in the front office, but he's not making this pick.
Right.
So everyone keeps saying, oh, they're going to take a big, tall guy with big arm. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go with Justin Fields. I mean, if Fields is still on the board, and there's so much good with Justin Fields, where, again, this is a guy who's his draft slander is like, it's crazy. Like,
it's weird. It almost makes me think there's something else that we don't know.
Which is crazy because it's kind of like a guy like Darius Geis. I mean, Geis.
I don't think it's
not saying their character is anything alike, but Geis was very quiet at LSU and everything was good on him, and he just slipped in the draft. Like, nobody knew what it was, and it comes out later like there's a lot of issues with him. But obviously, I'm not comparing him and Fields at all. I think Fields is a great guy.
Yeah.
But the thing with Fields is like the whole epileptic thing, where like
weird
it comes out of nowhere. Like
and then like a couple days later, he starts to slide.
Mm-hmm.
But we've seen this in the draft so many times, where it's like you have this guy who was projected to go so high, and all of a sudden he's sitting there in the green room by himself, and it's like the people are picking in the 20s, and it's like, how is this guy falling? And Mel Kiper is sitting there like, oh well, it's this, and this, and it's like nothing anyone's ever heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where did all this come from?
Yeah.
I think Fields is the biggest candidate to have that happen to him, but again, from what I've seen, I don't think it should be.
So I think if Denver has an opportunity to take Justin Fields, it's again another pick where you gotta make the right pick. And I think Fields on the boards right there. So right now I had Lawrence, Wilson, Lance. So I'd have Fields and Mac Jones on the board. Fields is so much better than Mac Jones. Like, it's not even a conversation.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know what the obsession is with Mac Jones. If I were an NFL team, again, I don't know much about Zach Wilson. I don't know why he shot up everyone's board. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Justin Fields was the number 2 guy for a reason. He didn't do anything last year that made me think he shouldn't be the number 2 guy off the board in this draft. Like, he was playing with broken ribs and he was out there slinging it. Like,
beating Trevor Lawrence in the semifinals.
And he was one throw away from the national championship 2 years ago, where his receiver ran the wrong route. So it's like he's done everything you could ask for out of a college quarterback, but for some reason, no one's with him.
Yeah,
so,
which I think is crazy.
Yeah.
So I have Justin Fields. You have Trey Lance. So Denver at pick 9 sticks with a quarterback. So pick 10, Dallas.
I have them going with Surtain here. I
have Surtain.
Yeah, I think
as well.
we agree on that one. I think that's probably the best defensive player in the draft as far as their position wise, how good they are.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, I mean, they could probably use a middle linebacker, so you can make a shout for Parsons here if he's still there. And I think he'd be a really good fit there. But I just think if you get a shutdown corner in Dallas, which they've been decent at drafting corners.
Yep.
I feel like in their tenure in the last 10, 15 years. I think that defense needs a lot of help, and that would definitely be a big one.
I'm going Surtain here as well. Honestly, you need that piece across from Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
Like, you drafted Diggs, and it was a great pick. I believe Diggs went to Alabama as well. So you go with the guy who played with him, and now you have Surtain and Diggs, which is, I mean, that's one of the best younger duos at the cornerback position. So
agree.
And then, like you said, I mean, Dallas could go with Micah Parsons or the kid from Notre Dame, but it's tough. I mean, I could also see them going with an edge rusher here, but
yeah, the Cowboys are a little bit of a wild card. They're not a team that I would generally picture trading down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just going to take the best corner that's available here. But if there were to be a team that would trade down and right there, it would be them. They have no reason to really reach for anyone there or pick anyone. So who knows? Maybe someone tries to trade with them to get one of these quarterbacks that slides a little bit too.
Pick 11, New York Giants.
Going back to the cornerback, well, I think they go with J.C. Horn.
Back-to-back cornerbacks.
Well, a lot of people have been talking about the offensive weapons and the receivers. the Giants are kind of set on all that. Like, maybe they could use an offensive lineman. Maybe they do go that route, but they just drafted a left tackle in last year's draft, pretty high. So I just don't see many other positions that they need to fill. Again, another team that could easily go with Parsons and fill that need on their team. But again, I think when you can bring in a guy like Horn, who's similar to Surtain, kind of changes your whole rotation on the back end with your defensive backs, I don't think you pass up on that.
Yep, I have them taking. I'm going to butcher this name, but I have them taking Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker out of Notre Dame. So I'm going to say right here, this is going to be a splash. I mean, Michael Parsons on the board, and they're taking the other linebacker.
Yeah.
I like the way this guy fits their team rather than Parsons. I mean, he's more of a middle backer, and Parsons is more like the weak side outside linebacker. Yeah. So, I mean, the Giants can do anything right here with this pick on defense, but I haven't taken Owusu-Koramoah. Pick 12, Philadelphia. That's pretty sweet. You got Dallas, Giants, and Eagles back.
The whole division is consistency of average right there in the middle.
So, Philadelphia, I mean, this is a pick that these guys can't miss here. They have to make this pick and make it right. So, I got them taking Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I was surprised that we both agreed on that one because Elijah Moore, probably not someone most people would have had going even in the 20s. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of guys on people's boards. But I think that the Eagles are under so much pressure to get weapons. And their offensive line is a weakness too, so they could easily go with Slater here. But they're under so much pressure to get receivers and good weapons. And I just think the way that Elijah Moore played last year, he really jumped off the page for a lot of teams. Yeah. I think he's going to go a lot higher than people think.
Yeah. So I have him here. I mean, I still have Waddle on my board. Yeah. But if anyone's watched Philadelphia Eagles over the last couple years, the one thing they can't do at wide receiver is take a guy who deals with injuries. Yeah. I mean, they drafted the kid last year. I can't even think of his name right now. They drafted the kid last year, and he played, 6 games? All of 6 games? Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a position right there. Alshon Jeffrey hurt all the time. You can't do that right there. So, I haven't taken Moore over Waddle, which that's 2 picks in a row. I have the NFC East wowing the draft people.
Yeah, they usually tend to do that, and then the players don't pan out. But let's see how this one goes.
So with pick 13, the Chargers. I mean, this is a pick. I mean, they had pick 5 last year and took Herbert. Was it 5?
Yeah.
So that's a pick right there. You take Herbert, and I mean, nobody thought he was going to be what he was. I mean, no
one thought he was even going to play.
Yeah.
So
and to be what he was. I mean, people thought he was going to be good, but he's argued. I mean, there was people saying he's better than Burrow. So.
I mean, that Tyrod Taylor injury was like a blessing in disguise because they got to figure out if Herbert was the guy. Mm-hmm. Definitely looks like he is. I think they're going offensive tackle and they're taking Slater here. Similar mindset where I don't think they have like a bunch of needs. Like on the defensive end, I think they do, but on offense, they have good enough weapons. They have their running back. I think the thing they really need is to bolster their offensive line for the future. Yep. Last thing you need is Herbert being the guy that becomes known as injury prone. Yeah. I think Slater's an easy pick. I'm sure they would be happy if he made it down to that pick.
So I have Slater off the board, and I have him taking the next top guy, Elijah Vera Tucker. I mean, he's a Southern Cal guy through and through. He played at USC last year, and he's an interior lineman. So, I mean, I don't think they're going tackle here. They could go tackle, but like we were talking with Slater and Sewell off the board, it's such a big drop that you just take the best offensive lineman and he either plays center or you throw him at either of the guard positions. Pick 14, Minnesota.
I have them taking Jalen Phillips from Miami.
Okay. I haven't taken Jalen Phillips actually too.
Oh, there we go. This draft doesn't have top end edge rushers, but this guy has every physical attribute you would look for. Like, he is on a Miami team that was pretty average offensively. Their defense kept them in a lot of games, and he was a big part of that. For his size, he was so quick. Like, every time you watched him, he was crazy. Obviously, he started at UCLA and then went to Miami. But in the years he was in Miami, he was at his best. So I think the Vikings have missed that. They tried trading for your boy, Yannick Ngakoue.
Yep.
And it didn't work out, so they got rid of him. So I think they fill that position here, and that's going to be a big upgrade to them.
I mean, so the thing with Minnesota, yeah, we got an all-star over here chasing his tail. The thing with Minnesota, I mean, their defense is so good and it's so overlooked, but a lot of people don't think of their defense last year. I mean, I believe Harrison Smith was hurt. Danielle Hunter was hurt.
Yeah.
So you get a guy like Danielle Hunter on one side, and you get a guy like Jalen Phillips. So you get two. These dudes are athletic freaks. And they just play the outside, and I mean that's a division you got to get after the quarterback.
Yeah,
it's all about defense, chasing the quarterback, especially when Aaron Rodgers is playing in Green Bay. So, I mean, you take the best edge rusher in the entire draft and go Phillips here. Pick 15, the New England Patriots.
Yeah. So on my board, I have Justin Fields falling to them. Obviously, no idea if it'll play out that way. No idea if anyone trades up or down and goes to get him. It's so tough to know.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that if one of those top 5 quarterbacks makes it to 15, there's no way New England would pass on it. They can't. And if they do, I would be irate. Even if it's Mac Jones, you should be taking him at 15.
Yep.
So, for my own sanity, that's where I had him landing. Whether or not that actually plays out like that, I have no idea.
All right, so I'm a huge guy against Mac Jones. I do not like Mac Jones at all. He's the only quarterback I have on the board still. The Patriots aren't taking him. I mean,
that's a Bill kind of guy.
But if you watch Mac Jones, like a lot of people are talking about how Justin Fields misses that first read. Mac Jones misses the first read so many times, and when you have Jalen Waddle or
that's my biggest concern,
or Devonta Smith or Najee Harris, you throw the ball to any player on that offense, and they're bigger, faster, stronger. Minus Devonta Smith, he's not bigger or stronger than a lot of players, but he's faster than all of them. So, but the thing is with Mac Jones is the arm strength may be there. It's still a little weak. I mean, his arm strength, it's not like he's not the Zach Wilson or the Trey Lance where his arm strength pops off the board, but he just doesn't read his routes enough. He takes that first read, and if it's not there, he's in trouble. And that's the thing with Alabama. When you have one read, 99% of the time it's open.
Yeah.
So Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind in football. You get a guy like Micah Parsons who's still on the board, the best linebacker in this class. He's taking Micah Parsons. If Micah Parsons is here, the one thing... So a lot of people keep saying New England's going to trade up. I don't see the Pats trading up.
I think they're way more likely to trade down than up.
Yeah, so I don't see them trading up. But if Micah Parsons is still here, you're jumping at Micah Parsons. If a team like Dallas or the Giants or Philly, Carolina, anyone take Parsons there, I could see them moving down. But with Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance off the board, they're not... if you take... Mac Jones right there is the Dwayne Haskins of that draft.
I guess Mac
Jones, I
would be like I said, I'm okay with I would expect the Patriots to take Justin Fields there, for someone that talented. If for some reason Mac Jones is there and they don't want to take him and they don't take him, I can live with that a lot more, especially if they're going to get a defensive player that's capable.
And the thing, like we've been saying, New England hasn't drafted here in 8 years, I think.
Yeah.
Bill hears the narrative about him right now. Brady leaves and wins the Super Bowl. The Pats don't make playoffs, and Bill has, he hasn't drafted a Pro Bowler since Chandler Jones that year. So he hears people talking about it. He sees it and he wants to win. So what's Bill gonna do? He's gonna nail that first round pick. And if Micah Parsons is on the board, he's taking Parsons. If Justin Fields somehow survives 2-15, he's taking Fields. But it's one of those two. If Fields is gone, he's either trading down or Micah Parsons. If Fields is there, it's Fields. I don't. If they take Mac Jones, Belichick's Belichick's job is in jeopardy.
That's
in jeopardy. It's
the
not.
more I think about it, the more I'm like, if they ever took Mac Jones at 15, would I be okay with that? I don't think I would be. So, like I said, I have Fields going there, and I'd be fine with that, and I would expect them to do that. But Mac Jones there, maybe not.
All right, pick 16, Arizona Cardinals.
This one was kind of an easy one for me. You lose what's been your franchise corner for however long Pat Pete was there. So you sub him in with Caleb Farley, who I think if perfectly healthy.
I have Farley as well.
I think if perfectly healthy, Farley would be in the conversation as better than J.C. Horn. But obviously with the surgery that he had, there's some concerns on that. But I think this is a really good spot for him. I can't picture another team behind the Cardinals that would really jump at Farley, and I don't see any reason why the Cardinals wouldn't want a guy like him.
I have them taking Farley as well. Like you said, if Farley didn't get hurt, I mean, he's arguably a top 5 pick. Like he's that good of a cornerback, and especially playing at one of the biggest things in college, like the prospects, is level of competition. This guy played Trevor Lawrence every year. He played that ACC schedule, so he's played Daniel Jones a couple years ago. He played he plays good teams. It's not like he's he's not a bum. I mean, the guy plays good teams, and the one thing with Arizona is when Pat Peterson was there, they never figured out how to help him out.
No.
Honestly, so it was Peterson on an island, and the next cornerback shouldn't even have been in the league. And so now you lose Peterson, you have to make an upgrade at this position. So I haven't taken Farley here.
Yep.
Pick 17, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. I can't put Parsons past the Raiders. I think when I think of John Gruden type players, Parsons, big guy, super athletic, is just almost overly aggressive at sometimes, but he just loves playing downhill. I can't think of a better fit for the Raiders than Micah Parsons, so that's where I have him going to the Raiders.
Big splash on this one. I have the Raiders taking Mac Jones.
There's a lot to unpack there.
There's a lot of reports saying that the Raiders are looking into the top-end quarterbacks. There's a lot of reports saying that Derek Carr is not favored there. So, you have Jones on the board, and I think he's a guy who will fit Gruden's system. I think if Gruden was still doing his quarterback camp right now, he would be going crazy over Mac Jones. just because that's John Gruden and
smacking him with pool.
And he's the smartest guy in the draft. People keep saying he's the smartest guy in the draft, and Gruden's the smartest guy in football. So, it's a match made in heaven right there. I haven't taken Mac Jones. That's a big pick, but I think it's going to happen.
Another risky one. But I can understand that at least if they don't really believe in Derek Carr. But I don't know if Mac Jones is the guy that you all of a sudden ship your faith in over Derek Carr.
I don't either. But so the thing is, if I don't have Mac Jones going here, I don't have him in this first round. And he
not even to a team like the Bears.
He may fall to 20, but the Bears. Look at what they've been doing at quarterback.
They have a new starter.
They've been living with mediocrity at quarterback, and that's all.
Those days are
all
over.
Mac
now
Jones
they have
is.
Andy Dalton.
Mac Jones is mediocre. It's just the same thing there. So, pick 18, Miami.
A little bit of an interesting one here. I know that we talked about it earlier, and we were talking about how the Dolphins just want weapons. I think they go with Travis Etienne here.
Ooh, okay. First running back off the board.
First running back over Najee Harris, which I know a lot of people think Harris is kind of like the consensus first running back off the board. I think Etienne is more of he can catch and run. If you're just looking to get a dynamic running back in the first round, I don't understand why people think Harris is over Etienne. Etienne's been doing it for years at Clemson. Obviously he's played in some really good teams and really good offenses, but he's lightning fast and he hits with a purpose too. So if I were a team, Etienne would be my favorite running back, and I think the Dolphins are looking for a guy like that in their backfield. So I think that's where they go at 18.
I have the Dolphins taking Kadarius Toney here. If anyone watched Toney in college, the dude is so fast.
Yeah.
So the one thing with Toney is the guy can't stay off the weed. I mean, he got in trouble like 3 different times at Florida for pot.
That's Florida football, though.
I mean, he stays in Florida. I mean, Laramie Tunsil fell in the draft because of weed, and who took him? Okay, the Dolphins. It's sketchy because if you put Tooney in Miami, he might be trouble.
Well, he's already in Florida, so how much worse could it get?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's interesting, but the thing with Tooney is they can use him as like that scat back receiver. Like he can be like the kind of like the way the 49ers use it, Deebo Samuel. Like he can the jet sweeps are going to be crazy. You can play him out of the backfield if you need to. Like he's going to be in motion a lot, and he's going to be all over the field.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Miami keeps saying with the offensive weapons. You get a guy like Tooney, and he is a weapon. He's that gadget player who can play anywhere on the field, and it fits their team. I mean, again, it's a fast dude. You get Tua to snap, somehow get the ball to him, and it works. So
we're kind of on similar thoughts there. I just think they need a running back more than they need a receiver, so that's why I go with the running back.
Yep. All right, where are we at? Pick 19, Washington.
So Washington has a sneaky good team.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, their front seven was known for being one of the best in football last year, so I don't think they need too much help on the back end. Maybe if one of these corners fall to them, they might take it. But I think they're going to bolster the offensive line, and this is where I have Christian Darrisaw going from Virginia Tech. A lot of like the consensus is that he was just like super reliable, never injured at Virginia Tech, can play the left side, can play the right side. No reason why Washington wouldn't be interested in a guy like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'll probably start as a right tackle for Washington early on. But again, he's a guy that can kind of move all over the place, so I think I like him there.
Yep. So I have Washington also taking a tackle, but I haven't taken Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. I mean, the dude's he's a huge guy. I mean, Washington, like you were saying, that they went and got the receiver they needed. So I mean, you signed Curtis Samuel, and then the one thing with Washington is they could go quarterback, and right at this point with a top 5 guys off the board, quarterback's not really what you want. I mean, you don't want to be reaching for a guy like, I mean, Jamie Newman, like someone like that. You don't want to be doing that. So Washington can realistically on offense, all they need is a tackle. I could see them going with a safety or cornerback here. I mean, they could take J.C. Horn. I have Horn falling after this pick, but they could easily go J.C. Horn. But, I mean, you booster that offensive line and you're solid right there.
Yep.
Pick 20, Chicago, I just said I have them taking J.C. Horn. So
I have them taking Bateman, receiver from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many questions. Like, obviously their biggest question mark is quarterback. But they have so many questionable players at wide receiver. It's like
minus Allen Robinson.
He just keeps getting franchise tagged. He's going to leave the second he can.
Yep.
And then the guys you have behind him, it's a pretty steep drop off. So I think you take a guy like Bateman, good size, didn't play in like a really good offense in Minnesota, but still was able to shine like pretty much every year that he played there. So I think that's a good pick. I got a lot of receivers going in the first round. I think that's probably the best available of what's left. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him go.
I have them taking Horn. I mean, they lost Kyle Fuller this year, right? They traded him.
Yeah, traded him.
So you trade Kyle Fuller, you just got to replace him.
Yeah.
Horn comes from the pedigree of football, and he's arguably a top cornerback in this draft. Like, he is arguably the top cornerback in the draft. So you just lose Fuller, you just got to fill that need.
Yeah, I think if a guy like Horn got there, even a Caleb Farley,
mm-hmm.
I mean, again, that's another team that does well drafting offensive players, but they still take their shots at, or they draft defensive players well, but they still take their shots at offensive players.
Yep.
Which, why I think they go back to running.
I think Chicago, if any team in this draft is going to make a trade, Chicago is the one. I think if Chicago sits
to a quarterback
anywhere, I mean they up for a quarterback, but I mean they could go anywhere between 4 and say 13. But I will be absolutely shocked if Chicago stands and drafts at pick 20. That's a one team. If they're making a trade, it's Chicago.
I like that.
Pick 21, Indianapolis.
Yeah, I got a little bit of off the board one here. I mean, this guy was probably projected to go in the first round, but maybe not this high. Azeez Ojulari from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
he's kind of similar to some other edge prospects where he's insanely athletic and has like all the tools you would look for, but it just didn't necessarily translate perfectly. Obviously, he played at Georgia and he played. I think he played 3 years there full. But the Colts do traditionally pretty well drafting defensive players, and I think this is a guy that Georgia does a really good job of developing, like linebackers and outside edge rushers. So I think if anyone's going to take a chance on one of these edge guys in the early 20s here, that would be the guy I think they would go for.
All right, I have them. So I have Jalen Waddle falling. Honestly, I think his injury history and like the injury risk is going to make him drop, and it's pretty interesting because the one big issue that Wentz had over in Philly were his wide receivers. Now he comes to Indianapolis. He has Michael Pittman and a very, very washed up T.Y. Hilton. So if realistically they could go I think they're going receiver here. So I haven't taken Waddle, but I wouldn't be if Waddle's gone a Bateman or Terrence Marshall, someone like that.
Yeah.
But I have them taking Waddle just because he's that polished and that good at receiver. But the thing, like, I think it's like you were saying that Philadelphia has the pressure. I feel like Indianapolis almost feels the same pressure to get Carson Wentz weapons.
I think they probably feel like they have more time. Like, I don't think there's an urgency as much as Philly has, where Indy has like pretty much every other piece. I do think they should take a receiver, and there's a lot of receivers that I think are going to be available even in the second round for them. That I wouldn't be surprised if they made a move for. So again, it wouldn't surprise me, especially off the back of Pittman last year, that they go back there to try and draft the guy. But I just don't think that would be the spot for them to do it. I think there's other positions that they can get bigger upgrades at.
All right. 22, the Tennessee Titans.
So this is where I have Owusu Koromoa going from Notre Dame. Just the best player on the board. Tennessee, their defense was so up and down last year. Like, some games they would look like a really good defense, and then all of a sudden they go to Cincinnati and they give up 1 million points in 5 minutes. And it's like they need some level of consistency. I think that starts in the middle. So I think that's why they're going to go with the inside linebacker to kind of take over.
I haven't taken Pat Freiermuth out of Penn State, the tight end. Again, it's another position where you just lose a guy and you got to fill it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with Tannehill, I feel like Tannehill's offense, like the way Tannehill plays, is very like center of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost Corey Davis actually, so you lose two weapons in Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis.
Yeah, they took
so now it's A.J. Brown, and realistically, I can't think of who the number 2 guy is in Tennessee right now. But you lose Brown and Smith.
I don't know who they were running as.
So you need somebody there, and with Pitts going up there, I mean, I haven't taken that tight end out of Penn State.
I don't hate that. I just think that that's a reach for the tight end. I think if you're gonna take a guy like that, you would either trade back and just get him later, or you just take the best available receiver here. Because like you said, we don't even know who the second guy would be right now. Really. So.
Yeah. All right, New York Jets 23.
I have them taking Newsome, quarterback out of Northwestern. Again, I have a lot of cornerbacks going in this draft. The Jets are definitely cornerback needy, more so than maybe any other position. I could see them going safety here as well, taking the best safety available off the board, but corner's the biggest need. Newsome's, for me, the best guy available, so I'm taking him.
I have them taking Christian Darrisaw. I mean, their offensive line's pretty beat up. I mean, you got the guy they drafted last year, the big dude at left tackle. He's a beast.
Yeah.
So you get another tackle, you throw him on the right side, and with taking Zach Wilson early, you got to protect him. So you get the left tackle you already have, and then you throw your right tackle in there.
Yep.
Keep that young quarterback healthy. Cincinnati. Pittsburgh at 24.
So Pittsburgh, I know this has been kind of a pretty common one, but I don't see a better fit for them than Najee Harris. Obviously, the running game was bad last year, even with James Conner. So you got to bring in a guy that's going to... When they were at their best is when they had the outsides working. You bring back all your receivers, so you're good to go there. But Le'Veon Bell was like kind of the cog in that machine, where as long as Le'Veon Bell was going, they could find their other receivers, and it just opened them up so much. So they missed that so bad. especially with how old Big Ben is. You can't just rely on him to stand
Yeah.
back there and throw the ball 40 times and win games. So it's just the pick that makes the most sense. I think if they were to probably have their pick on running back based on kind of the style of running back that he is, they would probably take him. So I think that's where they go.
So I haven't taken Javonte Williams here. Obviously, the kid out of UNC. Williams really only shined the last 2 seasons at UNC. But, I mean, the guy had 25 touchdowns in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So, playing at UNC, he didn't really – he wasn't utilized as a receiver that well. He had about 30 catches at UNC. But he's a workhorse. And, I mean, you lose James Conner, and that's exactly what Conner was. Conner was a workhorse on the ground. And you get a guy like Williams who's – I mean, the guy's just going to run over everyone.
Yeah.
That's all he's going to try and do. He's a power back. You bang him through the middle, and, I mean, that – with Pittsburgh, I mean, the thing with Pittsburgh is I don't see their offense changing that much this year. I mean, they're going to be that, like, snap and go. Like, everything that Big Ben did last year, they're going to do it again. So, what you got to do there is you need that running back to beat up that offense or defensive line.
Yeah.
And tire those defenders out while you have the short passing game.
Yeah. I think Najee Harris I think they're just going to try and get them, like, what's the closest thing to Le'Veon Bell? And I think they look at Najee Harris as probably the closest thing to that.
Yep.
So I think that's why they go there. But if they are just looking for, like, that bruising guy that they can give the ball to 20, 25 times, I think that would be more so of a guy.
Yeah.
Where they can just run it up the middle with him.
See, I feel like that's what they're going to do just because, like, with Le'Veon Bell, it was a snap and Big Ben was dropping back. Right now, Big Ben's not dropping back.
True.
So I feel like that offensive style is not going anywhere with them. 25, we got the Jaguars up again.
Jaguars, I haven't taken Kwity Paye from Michigan. He's, like, honestly probably, if he played more and had more of an impact on the games in Michigan, obviously they were playing pretty useless games at the end of their year, he would probably be a guy that would be at the top of kind of the edge rushers. I think Jalen Phillips probably edges him out a little bit here. But I really like him in Jacksonville. They've had a lot of success drafting DNs and edge guys as well.
Yep.
I think as much as you can bolster the offense and try and build around Trevor Lawrence, early on you're going to really struggle to – like, you're not going to win games by putting up 42 points. I don't think that's going to be how it works down there. So I think they're going to look and try and build the defense, and pretty good guy to start with.
I also haven't taken a defender, but, I mean, with Josh Allen right there at edge, I feel like they have to address that safety position. And if Trayvon Moehrig, I mean, it looks like he's going to still be here. Nobody's really safety heavy right now.
Yeah.
So you go get Trayvon Moehrig, and the dude's just a ball hawk. He's hard-hitting ball hawk, and you just lock down that free safety, strong safety position for, 5-8 years.
Yeah. I like him. He's obviously the best safety out there. I don't think there's any debate about that, but I still think that there's, like, you can still get one of these third, fourth, fifth edge rushers as far as ranking goes, and get a player that might be more impactful than him. So, I was between a guy like him, a safety that could jump in for any of these teams towards the end of the first round. But I think there's just better options, and especially at the end of the first round with all these teams that are already established, there's more guys that they'd probably be willing to roll the dice on and take a chance on than the safety position this year.
Yep. With 26, we have the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I have a guy here that you already took off the board, Kadarius Toney, going to the Browns. They have, for as good as like Odell is and Jarvis Landry, and like they had that whole thing for now, it's always going to be up in the air for as long as you have Odell Beckham. Like one day he could be good, the next day he could want out. Yeah, there's your boy. So I think, and Toney fits into a lot of what they do. They run a lot of like gadget plays. Like you see Jarvis Landry throw the football, and they run a lot of like end arounds and things like that. That's what he's perfect for. And you don't have to beat up your old receivers in the process doing it. So it's like, I think he's a really good fit as far as not only the type of offense that they run, a quick guy they can stuff in slot and just have him run a million different plays, but also in the long term, you can kind of, if he can stay off the weed and stay on the team, which obviously the Browns have had some trouble with receivers like that in the past, so it's a little bit of a question mark there. But I think if they can keep his head on straight, that would be like a really good fit to excel their offense.
Yep. So I haven't taken Greg Newsome, the cornerback out of Northwestern.
Yep.
I I think their offense is honestly solid, and they're just going to let that offense grow. And the more that offense grows, the question mark is Odell. And as talented as Odell is, there's always going to be a question mark with him and the prima donna wide receiver and that whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I could see them going wide receiver and trying to move Odell. But they just need whoever the cornerback from so they have Greedy Williams at cornerback.
Yeah.
Who they drafted last year. Throw somebody alongside him and
work on Denzel Ward too.
Yeah, and Denzel Ward. So you get that. I mean, Williams kind of sucked last year. He was hurt a lot, but definitely underachieved. And even Newsome, you throw him in the slot or Williams in the slot. I mean, as slot corners, and now you have 3 good cornerbacks worried about that pass game.
Right.
So with Baltimore, pick 27.
Yeah, Baltimore could go any number of ways here. Obviously, they need offensive help with skill positions. But I think they go with Zaven Collins here, the edge linebacker out of Tulsa. Probably a guy that, if he played on like a Power 5 school, wouldn't make it this far just because of how talented he is and how much he did for Tulsa last year. But I just when you picture a guy like as a Raven and you watch him play last year in college, like he would be the perfect Raven. Just flying around off the edge, creating turnovers, hitting guys, trying to run through gaps on run plays. I think he's just so perfect for them that as much help as they need on the offensive side, they did lose, obviously, Matthew Judon. I think he could jump right in and fill that role pretty quick.
Yep. So I have Baltimore taking Rashad Bateman. I mean, obviously, it's a very known fact that the Ravens need wide receivers. And before this season, without Alabama's cupcake schedule in the SEC this year, not cupcake, SEC was just very bad this year. Bateman, I had Bateman ranked number 2.
Yeah.
I think that guy is so good and he's such a good route runner. His hands are insane. I mean, other than Jamar Chase, I have Bateman right under him. So there's so much hype around Alabama, which just drops Bateman so far down.
Yeah.
And the guy he did pretty much struggle this year. But, I mean, like you said earlier, he played at Minnesota.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even name the guy's quarterback. So I have Baltimore going with the big body Rashad Bateman right there. Pick 28 for New Orleans.
New Orleans, I have them taking Vera Tucker, the guard out of USC.
Yep.
Again, I just think he's the best player available. You're going into a season with a new quarterback, which who knows how that's going to look with Taysom Hill full-time.
Or Jameis Winston full-time.
I mean, let's be real. They're not going to start Jameis.
Yep.
Either way, you need to protect him as much as they can. I mean, this guy's widely regarded as probably the safest pick in the draft. He's not going to be probably the best player on the offensive line, but he's going to be far from the worst. So, I think that's a safe pick and a smart one for the Saints.
I have them taking Terrace Marshall. I mean, if anyone watched LSU the last 2 years, all this kid did is score touchdowns. He may have had 60 career catches, and he had 25 touchdowns. So, I would say, like you said, it's going to be interesting the way that team is ran with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. I mean, Taysom Hill, it's like Taysom Hill last year and the year before. Every time he plays, it's minus the starts. I mean, he's running the weird, pretty much like a wildcat.
Yeah.
So, with Taysom Hill finally learning the offense, you go get him another weapon, and now he has Kamara, Michael Thomas, and Marshall. I mean, that offense is going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, that's also wouldn't be a bad pick for them either, because who knows what can happen to Michael Thomas. You've seen over the last couple of years. Trade rumors, he's hurt, he doesn't want to play, he gets suspended, things like that. So
yeah, exactly.
There's a question mark there too.
Pick 29, Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay, I have them not helping Aaron Rodgers again. They're going to go with Jamin Davis, the linebacker from Kentucky. For as good as the top 2 guys are, he is probably the most freakishly athletic of the top 2. He's a little smaller, but again, he played in the SEC and he more than held his own in the SEC last year. 3-down linebacker. I think he'd be, again, Green Bay's defense has been really good. I think that's kind of what they're trying to focus on, is building the defense more so than the offense. I think this is a guy that would stick in, be a 3-down linebacker from the get-go, so I'm going to go with him.
All right, so the thing with this Green Bay pick, I originally didn't have them helping Rodgers. I also have 6 wide receivers drafted in this class already. and 2 tight ends drafted in this class already. They don't need a tight end. So originally I had them taking a defensive player and helping that defense out. And I don't know why people assume that having a great defense isn't helping your quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers bitches and moans and goes on Jeopardy talking about how his team doesn't help him. But his team's done more than enough to help him rather than him choke him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, so I sat there, I'm like, you know what, they have so much pressure under their belt right now. They have to go out and get a receiver. So I haven't taken a little reach here with Cade Johnson. He's a wide receiver out of San Diego State. He's an undersized guy, but I would say he balled out in the Senior Bowl. He's an undersized slot dude who has that big play potential no matter what. And, I mean, it's also interesting because if you watch the receivers Rodgers played with, he's really never had that slot guy. Jordy Nelson was like 6'3".
Randall Cobb was kind of that guy.
Yeah, all right, Cobb definitely was, so... But he wasn't also that big play. Like, he was a slot guy. He was more of a slot, like, Julian Edelman type.
Yeah,
he's going to catch the ball over the middle. You get a guy like Cade Johnson. Like, Cade Johnson reminds me of, like, the Odell Beckham where he can catch the ball, like, 6 yards away and take it to the house.
Well,
so,
no matter what you do with that pick, even if you do take a receiver like him, it's not going to be good
it's a
enough
reach.
for Aaron
Like,
Rodgers.
it's a reach of a
exactly.
pick. So, I mean, unless you get Bateman or Terrace Marshall to fall, then you take them.
Yeah.
But, like that's the thing, dude. Especially with Green Bay, you look at how many years in a row have
but
they
they're
passed.
just crazy enough to not do it again.
Yeah.
Just
And
be
they
like,
really
oh,
should.
you want
They
a receiver?
realistically should. This is 1 year they 100% do it. But you know damn well if it's
I know they're not
if
going
it's 8:26 p.m. on April 29th and the frickin' Green Bay Packers take a defensive player, Aaron Rodgers is bitching on Twitter, and the whole fucking state of Green Bay or Wisconsin is doing the same thing. Every Aaron Rodgers love is gonna just.
I think they might just do it again.
You have to realistic, dude. How many? I've gone over this a lot on this podcast, but how many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers choke a playoff game away, and then he bitches online and says something to the media, and it looks like, oh, Aaron Rodgers doesn't like Green Bay. Green Bay doesn't help Aaron Rodgers. Like, how is Jair Alexander, arguably a top 3 cornerback in the league, on your team? He doesn't help you. Like,
Because Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to him.
Yeah, exactly. A prima donna quarterback. People talk prima donna receivers. Aaron Rodgers has changed that quarterback position. But yeah, I mean, you want help, Aaron? Here you go. Here's Cade Johnson.
That'll do it.
Pick 30, Buffalo Bills.
I went a little off the grid here. Probably a guy most people wouldn't have in the first round, but I have them taking Asante Samuel Jr.
Okay.
Obviously, they're set at corner with Tre'Davious White in their number 1 spot. Asante Samuel, I think the knock on him is he isn't like the most athletic guy, but from everything you see, he's one of the smartest corners probably in the draft, or at least for corners goes. I'd say defensive backs as well. Everyone's like super high on his IQ, so I think that's a guy that the Bills would be comfortable taking on, putting him in the slot for the first couple of years, see if he pans out. Bills they don't need too many offensive weapons. Maybe they take a running back here, but they also have Zach Moss that they took recently, so maybe they go that route. Maybe they bolster the offensive line, but I think they could probably use another corner to develop and stick in the slot there.
So I got him taking Greg Russo, the edge out of Miami. I mean, the guy's just an athletic freak.
Yeah.
Is he the one who didn't have the sacks?
No, that's the kid from Penn State.
Okay, so Russo is just an athletic freak. The kid's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, you take either of those edge rushers out of Miami, and you're getting a guy who arguably is a Pro Bowler right away. And I mean, what are you gonna do in Buffalo? The team's very good, so you just fill a need, and you need an edge rusher. You get a guy on the edge who's gonna blitz the quarterback. He's gonna sack Cam Newton 4 times a game. So
yeah,
I'm happy with the pick.
I think once you get into like these last 3 picks, like some of it's filling need, but some of it is also like if you're like the Bills and the Bucks, like how much more do you really need? You might as well take on a guy that has like a lot of talent and potential who you can try and develop.
Yep.
And if you hit on him, great. If not, it's not going to kill you because you already have your team.
With pick 31, Baltimore Ravens.
Back to the Ravens. I passed on a skill position with them before, but now I have them taking Rondale Moore.
Ooh, okay.
Again, another guy that I'm like, oh my God, would he be perfect with Baltimore, like with how dynamic and everything he can do. Like that's a guy with Lamar Jackson. You can run him on like read sweeps through the backfield. He can fly down the sidelines. Like he's not going to do much for you over the middle. He's not going to be like this supreme route runner, but he's desperately needed as far as like stretching the field and being a guy that can be that threat. I know they thought Hollywood Brown was going to be that, but I think you got to take a chance on another guy that can stretch the field and hopefully make Lamar look a little bit better in the passing game.
All right. So I addressed the receiver position with Bateman earlier. I'm going Christian Barmore. I mean, he's not in a lot of first-round mocks, which is kind of surprising because there's word out on Christian Barmore that this guy could easily be the best player in this draft. Which, I mean, you got a guy now. He's typically in round 2 for everyone, but it could very easily be round 1. And Baltimore needs another defensive lineman. Like you said, they lost Judon, so their defense is going to be hurting, especially with the rush. So I'm going Christian Barmore, and you stop the run game. And the last pick of the first round, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is the guy you were talking about that had no sacks for Penn State, Jason Owe. Again, everyone says he's like super athletic, but to play edge and have 0 sacks in the season is nearly impossible.
At Penn State.
Yeah, at Penn State. Especially with, like, they had a pretty good defense. I know their offense was a little touch and go there at some points, but they were still a pretty good team. So, this is what I was saying is I think when you're like the Bills and the Patriots, you can roll the dice on guys like these. Like if this guy pans out and you can like get him to be more technically sound and like do his job better.
Yep.
He's got all the tools to do it. You just got to make it happen. So I don't know if the Bucs are that type of coaching team, but that's the type of guy that I think would be a good fit there.
All right. So, I mean, I haven't taken Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame tackle.
Yeah. I
mean, realistically, I don't think this guy, whoever is drafted here, I don't think he's going to play. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me to see them go with a running back here. I mean,
I was thinking about that.
Realistically, they have Fournette. And I mean,
well, and they still have Ronald Jones, don't they?
Yeah, but I mean, Ronald Jones finally played good last year, so they have Jones and Fournette. So
I think you can get any running back and put them in that offense.
Yeah, and they're gonna be a beast. So I don't have Najee Harris going here. You can throw him there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy pick. The other kid out of UNC, what's the other kid's name out of UNC? Not Williams, the other one.
I don't even know.
He's good. So I mean, I could see him going here, but the thing, like, I don't think this guy's gonna play no matter what. So I haven't taken Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame. And if somebody on the offensive line gets hurt, you just throw him in there. Protect Brady.
Michael Carter is the other running back from
Michael
Carolina.
Carter. Yeah, he's good too. All right, Fitman, do you have let's do one bust in this round.
One bust. All right. I mean, my thing is, of the 5 quarterbacks that we know are going to be taken likely in the first round, at least 2 of them are going to be busts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one that's most likely to be the bust, like not even really be a starter at any point, is Trey Lance.
Okay.
I think Mac Jones will be a starter and play a good amount of years. I do not think Trey Lance. There's just no way that all 5 of these quarterbacks pan out. There's just no way. Mm-hmm. And he has the least amount of like film, the least amount of pedigree as far as like what they've done in their college game. And again, he could be great, but I just don't see how all 5 of these cornerbacks turn out to be good. At least with Mac Jones, I can say he's done it at a high level, and he's clearly proven to be a smart quarterback. So if put in the right place, he might be able to get it done. Mm-hmm. I do not think I can say the same about Trey Lance. So I'm going with him as my bust.
All right, so for my bust, again, hot take, I'm going to go with Devonta Smith. I mean, anytime you hear about Devonta Smith, it's a size.
Yeah.
And he said today he's not a bodybuilder. We're not bodybuilders. We're football players. Eventually, your size is going to matter at most positions in the NFL. I would say the one thing with Devonta Smith is no matter where he's been, it hasn't. I think it's going to catch up to him. I mean, like you look at a guy like Deshaun Jackson. Not many players are that small and that fast for their entirety of their career.
Is Devonta Smith as fast as him?
I don't even think so. He's not as fast as Jackson.
If he's smaller than Deshaun Jackson, he's going to be hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Normally, I wouldn't care. Like if he was like a slot guy and just only played in the slot, I just wouldn't care. Like I'd be like, whatever. Like, at this point in the NFL, it's like you have guys that are that small that can play that position and be fine. But if he's going to be lining up outside, like, yeah, maybe he can fly. But, like, man, you got to worry about, like, injuries. And can he put on weight? Like, what is he? He's listed as 166. What's he at most going to be able to get up to? He ain't hitting, like, 190, I don't think.
That's what, like we were saying in the chat today, somebody was like, 190 is not hard to ask. A guy like him at your whole life you've lived at 165.
Yeah, that's
going up 30 or 25, 30 more pounds. You're not going to keep your same speed.
Exactly.
You're going to be built different, and it's just not going to happen.
I don't think there's any team that's going to want him to go up to that weight. Is the other thing. It's like you bring him in, you might want to put a little weight on him, but
and the craziest part about him is like if you watch the dude play, his legs are so small.
So small.
And like. It's the worst part about NFL is like the leg injuries and like the whole thing. Devonta Smith, I mean, the dude's balled out anywhere he's been, but eventually I think the size is going to catch up to him, and he's just not going to be able to excel at the NFL level.
Yeah.
So for a guy drafted in the top 10, I'm saying he's a bust.
Okay.
And how about the best player in this first round?
Best player, I'm gonna say
minus like Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the best player that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So pretty much guys that wouldn't be picked in like the top 10ish area. I'm gonna go with Zaven Collins, the guy that I had going to the Ravens. I just can't picture how his game wouldn't translate to the NFL. Like I said, if he was playing anywhere else in a Power 5 school, he'd be getting picked 10 picks higher. So that's my guy that probably shouldn't go as late as he will, and will be an impact player from day one.
See, I can go with a guy like Jalen Phillips here. I'm not going Jalen Phillips. But just that edge rusher, you take him it's crazy because the quarterback position this year is so hyped up.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, there's 5 in the first round. Kyle Pitts is coming out today saying there's going to be the first 4 picks quarterbacks. That's just crazy.
One of those, and that's what I was saying earlier. Is at least one of those 4, if that happens, is going to be a total bust.
Yeah,
it's like that's why it's like a total roll.
And
it's
of the dice such an insane you're drafting a quarterback. That guy is your franchise for supposed to be 10 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many times have we seen an edge rusher go pick 1? It's like the Jadeveon Clowney, the guy at Cleveland, that edge rusher easily is the best player in the draft almost every single year.
Yeah.
So
that and the tackles.
To be surprised if we look back at this draft in 5 years and Jalen Phillips is a 5-time Pro Bowler, I would be like, okay, I'm not surprised at all.
I can live with that.
But best player in the draft right now that I'm gonna go with Caleb Farley.
I like that.
I mean, this dude is a complete lockdown cornerback, and he's going to be like the Jair Alexander, where nobody really expected him to be that lockdown, except for the team who drafts him. And I think he's going to jump in day one, and if his back is healthy day one, he's going to fill that Pat Peterson position perfectly. So I'm going Caleb Farley.
I like it.
All right, is that it?
That's all I got.
How about this? We got, because it's like a fantasy football podcast, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's one rookie in the first round who you think all fantasy football owners should have on their radar as to be like a productive player for them this year?
Mine was, and I don't even know if he's going to go in the first round, but I have him going in the first round, was Travis Etienne to the Dolphins. Okay. I think if he goes to a team where he's going to step in right away and be an impact, be the starting running back, he can do everything. There's going to be no reason for anyone to take him off the field. So that's my impact player. Obviously, you can go with any number of the receivers, even Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, you mentally slot in already as being behind Kittle and Kelsey as the two best fantasy tight ends. So you can say that easily, but I just think as far as upside goes, you may not get if Etienne goes to the Dolphins, you may be able to pick him second, third round in the fantasy draft, and he might be one of the best running backs in the league next year. You never know.
So if you're going the best if you're doing a dynasty league, Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase, or pick one. I think those two guys are coming into this league and they're gonna torch it.
Yeah.
The thing with Pitts is it's tough, man. When have we seen a rookie tight end come in and actually play the position to a good level.
Yeah, and everyone thought Hawkinson was going to be like the stud year.
Yeah, and he had like 4 touchdowns and 5 in the first 4 weeks. Yeah. You get somebody it's that third year really with that position. Like Noah Fant had the breakout this year.
True.
Hawkinson had his breakout this year. So it's going to be interesting to see if Pitts can actually pick up the NFL game right away. I think Kyle Pitts is going to be a fantastic player, but to slot him in like top 5 tight end right away is pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, man, I'm going with Terrace Marshall. Like I said earlier, all that dude does is score touchdowns. He's not the biggest guy, he's not the fastest guy, but whatever the hell he does as soon as he gets in that red zone is dynamic. He's just like he's gonna, especially if he's playing in New Orleans and they're gonna run gadget plays to get him the ball, or they're gonna run those weird red zone plays that the back shoulder fade where he's gonna be able to get up and get it. Like, so if you're going like outside of the top 2 or 3 where like you're sitting here, all right, this guy's a lock for my fantasy team, Terrace Marshall, and he also could fall later in the round, like into the later rounds, but I think Terrace Marshall, no matter where he goes, that guy's just going to score touchdowns. Is that it?
That's all I got.
Alrighty, Austin. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, stay tuned. We're not going to be back next week. We're not going to be back. We'll be back soon. That's all I can tell you.
Maybe we'll do a draft recap.
Yeah, we could do a draft recap.
Do some draft grades.
Yeah. Ooh, alrighty. All right, we could. We may be back next week. Who knows? Just stay tuned. See you guys later.
Thanks for listening to the 508 Power Hour. Make sure to hit that follow button on Twitch and hit subscribe on YouTube at 508 Association.